Guys, Mark St. Arnaud here. I'm going to talk to you today about protein powders. Make a quick video, or a relatively quick video, for all those people who want to know a little bit more about protein powder, how to choose, what to look for, and how to filter out certain protein powders, because there's a lot in the market there. So let's talk about different sources for protein powder manufacturing. Essentially, you've got animal-based and we've got plant-based. Okay, the big difference here is when we look at the level of essential amino acid content. Essential amino acid content in animal-based protein is generally much higher. So these are the amino acids that your body cannot produce, with the exception of maybe cell turnover or degrading your own muscle tissue or other tissues of the body. In order to get these, obviously we don't want to be doing that, especially as athletes, trying to promote anabolism or building muscle tissues. When we look at whey-based protein, we're looking at different grades. Basically, we've got concentrate, we've got isolate, we've got hydrolyzate being kind of the gold standard. Obviously concentrate, you still got lots of byproducts in there, lactose, perhaps some other sugars in there as well, and there are various other byproducts that really you don't want to be paying for. I mean, it's cheaper for sure, you get your money's worth, but definitely if you're lactose sensitive, you want to stay away from that. And when it comes to purity of the protein, obviously a concentrate is going to be less pure altogether. So let's talk about an isolate. So an isolate's basically been pretty well filtered. Byproducts are removed, including most, if not all, lactose. In fact, all lactose should be removed on a pure isolate if it's a pure isolate, and you should not have any issues with digestion on that front. When you're looking at a hydrolyzate, so basically this is basically an isolate protein, but it's already pre-digested into di and tripeptides. So if we're looking at a chain of protein, if we're looking at a protein chain of amino acids, basically the chain's already cut up. So it's already, I guess you could say, bypass some of that chemical digestion that would take place in the body. To be honest with you, I think it's kind of overkill. I've asked for opinions on this from some respected individuals in the industry, and they kind of feel the same way. However, one person did say to me that if you're using it intra-workouts or using it in a shake, perhaps there will be some merit to it, as it can pretty much get into the bloodstream instantaneously. At least in theory it should. Whereas, say, an isolate would have to go through some sort of chemical digestion. So maybe in that case I could see it. But all in all, I would look for an isolate. When we're talking about a plant-based protein, again, we're getting lower levels of essential amino acids. I can't actually remember if I already mentioned this or not. But you're looking at that, and you're also looking at perhaps, well, let's take soy for an example. You're looking at possibly getting some isoflavonoids in there, and obviously isoflavonoids are compounds that produce estrogen-like effects in certain tissues of the body. So certainly, especially males, we don't really want that. We don't really want to be growing breasts. At least most of us don't. So I would probably suggest staying away from that. If you're vegetarian, then perhaps you can make an argument for that. But in that case, I'd probably go with hemp or something along the lines of that. But there's also pea protein out there. There's many plant proteins out there. I'm not sure how pea works, because it doesn't have all essential amino acids, so they must infuse it with certain EAAs. But actually, to be honest with you, I don't know how that's actually done. So if anybody out there does know, let me know. Other animal-based include milk, micellar casein. What else? We got egg, we got beef. So these are all different sources. Obviously, they're going to have different amino acid levels. To me, I would suggest whey. Whey's got a very, very high leucine content, a very, very high branched chain amino acid content for that matter, and again, BCAAs are pretty important, especially leucine, being the so-called quote-unquote trigger for promoting protein synthesis in the body. So let's look at cleanliness of protein. So we talked about concentrate, isolate, hydrolysis. Obviously, hydrolysis being the gold standard, but really, when it comes to purity, there's really no difference with that and isolate. So, all in all, when you're looking at a label, you want to look at the serving size. So let's say a scoop is 40 grams. So total serving size is 40 grams. And let's look at the amount of protein in there. And let's say, for argument's sake, it's 36 grams. There's a 90% purity. That's pretty damn good. What else is in there? Well, there's going to be probably some flavoring, salt, perhaps some natural coloring. If there is coloring, hopefully it is natural. It could be infused with other amino acids. We'll talk about that. But obviously that's going to show up as protein. There might be a little bit of fat in there depending on how clean the filtering is done. And we talked about that a little bit earlier on when we talked about the difference between a concentrate and an isolate. And the byproducts that are in there, so the fat, the lactose, perhaps other sugars in there as well. So name of the game is purity. I think that's huge. So purity of a protein powder, you want to, again, look at one that is, quite honestly, you should really get one that's, I say, at least 80% pure. And that, again, is really kind of pushing. I'd probably say more like 85% pure and above. If you're going to pay for protein, you might as well pay for protein. Why not? Why pay for, all those other byproducts that, quite honestly, are probably just going to give you some sort of digestibility issue. So, again, serving size versus amount of protein. Take the amount of protein, divide it by the serving size, times it by 100, and you get your percentage of protein in a serving. The other thing I hear all the time, it just drives me up the wall, is people say, oh, check this out, this serving contains 80 grams of protein. Yeah, well, because the serving size is, 120 grams. So, you can dump the whole container into a bowl, and you'll get 4 pounds of protein. So, you got to look at the serving size. Don't look at how much protein there is, just in general. Look at the amount of protein relative to the serving size. Okay? So that's key. Let's come back to amino acid spiking. So quite often, supplement companies will infuse protein powders with cheaper amino acids. Things like glycine and taurine. Taurine's actually not an amino acid. It's amino acid derivative of cysteine, I believe. But anyway, let's call it. We'll call it an amino acid. It's often sold as an amino acid on its own. But to be honest with you, it's a cheap amino acid. It degrades the protein content. Overall, it's degrading the concentration of essential amino acids. So look out for that. Really, a protein powder should list the amino acid profile on the side. So you've got 20 amino acids, and it should list exactly how much of what is in there per serving size. So look for that. It should be on there. Stay away from those that have taurine infused in them or high levels of glycine. Honestly, glycine should be somewhere around nothing more than 0.005%. So going through my notes here, A good protein powder should be around 18 to 20% branched chain amino acid content, in my opinion. So, again, just do the math. Look at the amino acid profile on the side, so I'll have a listing of all 20 amino acids, and check out isoleucine, leucine, and valine. Okay. Ingredients. So most of you are probably aware of this, but when you look at the ingredients list on any food product for that matter, obviously the first ingredient that's in there in the list is the one that's most prevalent by weight, followed by the next most prevalent, and so on and so forth. So, you know, that gives you a good idea of how much of what's in there. So, you know, really there shouldn't be a lot of ingredients in any food product. I just try to stay away from that type of thing. With a protein powder, unless it's, you know, a blend of different proteins, in that case, you know, it's one of these, you know, time-release proteins, then maybe you'll get, obviously, a longer list, but, you know, there shouldn't be a ton of stuff in there. You know, I don't want to name names of any protein powders because I don't want to seem like I'm trying to, you know, diss a certain company, but, you know, just look, or companies out there, just look at the amount of ingredients, what ingredients are in there, and make a good decision for yourself. If you're unsure of something, you know, the internet's a great place to look it up. So, but obviously be careful, because the internet's also full of misleading information as well. So, let's look at. Let's talk about proprietary blends. So, proprietary blends. What can I say about proprietary blends? Well, first and foremost, stay away. So if a company's not going to tell you what's in their product, don't buy it. It's as simple as that. I'm just not big on proprietary blends. Usually, when a company sells you a proprietary blend, it says I've got this and this and this and this and this in there, and it's all great ingredients. But the reality is it's, you know, one maybe a lesser ingredient, lesser in terms of quality, and then a sprinkle of a bunch of other stuff. So, chances are, if it's proprietary, it's really not worth buying. Okay, so buyer beware with proprietary blends. Are protein powders helpful, useful, necessary? Are they necessary? I guess not really. You know, if you're trying to increase your protein and you have a hard time eating, then, you know, I think it'd be a good idea. If you're an athlete, especially somebody who's weight training relatively intensely, I would say it's pretty necessary. You know, you've got, or you want to have something that's easily digestible, you know, upon right after weight training. Really, your body doesn't want to have to go through the mechanical and hardcore chemical digestion of a piece of steak or chicken, for that matter. So, you know, if you have a shake, mechanical digestion's bypassed, part of the chemical digestion's bypassed, and so basically what that means is it gets in your bloodstream much faster, which is a good thing because you've just caused micro tears in your muscles, if we're using weight training as an example. You've got high levels of cortisol running through your bloodstream, your blood sugar levels are low, your body is in a dire need for amino acids. So we want to lower cortisol levels, we want to get amino acids in the bloodstream to help facilitate protein synthesis. We want to turn on protein synthesis by getting those amino acids in there, in particular leucine. And we want to start to facilitate recovery as soon as possible. So I highly recommend it after weight training. I also highly recommend it first thing in the morning. When I have my protein in the morning, I don't generally just have food-based. Like I'll have eggs in the morning, but I'll also have powder. The reason I have partly powder is just because I fasted for 8 hours in the night, possibly more, and I want to get some amino acids in my bloodstream. So remember, your body cannot store amino acids. Certainly we can store fat, certainly we can store carbohydrates in the form of glycogen in the muscles and the liver. But we can't store protein. You can argue that our tissues are made of protein, so isn't that storage protein? Sure, but like I said, we're not really interested in going through cell turnover and using those amino acids to help facilitate recovery. It's kind of like just spinning our wheels. It makes no sense. We need a surplus of amino acids. So again, first in the morning, you don't have to go through more scrupulous digestion. It's much more bioavailable, if you want to say so. So first thing in the morning after you train, I actually like to have a shake before I train too, because I hate training with anything in my stomach. I like something that gets in me really fast, so I'll actually have a shake before I train. What else can we say here? I guess that's about it. If you have any comments, questions, I'm more than happy to. Any corrections on my part, I'm more than happy for that. I'm a big proponent of truth, even if I'm wrong. So I'd rather live by truth than simply pretending I'm right to serve my ego. So if you have any questions, concerns, comments, additions, corrections, please feel free to comment on this video. I hope you found it useful, enjoyable, and in future videos maybe I'll be a little more energetic. So tired from studying. So what are we at? 16.5 minutes. That's pretty brutal. All right, guys. So until next time.